Hello! Welcome to part 2 of my mixed media Tiltbrush and Photogrammetry tutorial series. My name's Tom, I'm from Playframe, and this video I'll be going through how to use Meshroom to create a photo scan or photogrammetry result from photos that you've taken. Okay, let me try and describe how we're going to do photogrammetry today. So the first thing you need to do is you need to take a load of photos of an object. Now here's some photos I've taken earlier. I have around 90 objects there, 90 photos I've taken of the same object, and this is obviously a picture of the mouse from the Gruffalo in a forest that we went and visited to about a year ago. And at the time I thought, oh, that'd be nice to capture, so I took a lot of photos of it. And what I did really was I tried to keep the camera as steady as possible, and then I slowly took one photo at a time, took a step, and then took another photo. And I kept repeating this process until I felt that I had captured this object from every single angle imaginable. Thinking about the 3D shape of things like those ears and the undersides of the ears, and making sure I got some nice high resolution photos of the texture of the face, because that's how photo scanning works. You need to have photos of the object from all different types of angles. Now the object I've chosen here is also particularly good for it because it's got a lot of detail on it. If it was an object that had a very shiny surface or transparent parts, that kind of object doesn't scan very well using the system that we're using. When we do workshops, we often use plasticine because, again, it's got a lot of fine detail on the surface, and I always try to make sure that it's on a very highly detailed ground, like maybe a wooden ground, or I actually have a painting I use in workshops that I often put the piece on. It's very important that the piece that I'm taking photos of doesn't move at all during the photo process, and you really don't want the lighting to change either. Now the lighting sometimes will change just because of the way that when you move around the object, you will affect the lighting, but you try to limit that by just seeing whether it changes any of the pictures from one shot to the next. Now you'll also want to use a camera that has specifically a way of locking the light balance and the exposure, because those things can change shot to shot on most mobile phones. So doing it with a system that can lock those things so they don't change will give you much better consistency across all those photos, because you want all the photos to have the same color balance. And you can see here I'm going and getting right close to get lots of different details from all the different positions. So you see there was a change there between that shot and that shot. That's the kind of lighting effect you kind of want to avoid. I think I get away with it this way in this series. Anyway, once you've got all those photos, you then need to import them into this program here. So this is called Meshroom, this program in the background here. And when you load up Meshroom, it's a completely free piece of software. You can download it from the internet. All you need to do is Google Meshroom, and it will take you to the website where you can download it. It's what we call an open source piece of software. It's made by people who are not seeking necessarily to get payment for it. They just want a piece of software to exist, and they want it to work quite well. And it's usually created by enthusiasts and funded and volunteers. So Meshroom is a free photogrammetry or photo scanning software. So what we do with Meshroom is that we go to our folder full of pictures. In this case I've got a folder called Mouse, and it's full of all these photos. I then make sure I select them all, so I hold down Shift and click the bottom button to select them all, and then select A to grab them all, and then I pick them up and I drag them and drop them into here where it says Add Images. It will take a second registering what they are. And there it is, they've added all the images in there. Now, one thing you'll notice here, you've got this little green circle in the top corner. This is a little traffic light system to just tell you whether it recognizes the camera you've taken the photos with. These are much more complicated if you've got an abnormal camera, it's quite complicated to put the details into the system, but most cameras will be found, and it won't actually be a problem. Certainly if it's yellow, I've had perfectly fine results with yellow systems. Red though will not come up at all, so make sure that it's coming up on that, and use the right type of camera if you can. But I'm using a Pixel phone camera for this. So then what I do is I go through all the photos step by step and just look at them one by one, and I look for any that I think are really blurry, because I think that then they won't give me any good scan results, and this can sometimes mess up the results of other photos. Now obviously I can't expect the entire photo to be clear, because inevitably photos always focus on one part of the object that you're taking a photo of, but as long as an important part of it is in focus, then it's worth probably keeping in. So for example, these things, the middle of the model is well in focus, but the top, the ears are actually slightly blurry. But I'm not going to worry about that, because I think that getting the detail here on the chest is more important, and it will still get some information from those ears, because what it does is it triangulates using color differences from photo to photo. So anyway, let's see if I can find a blurry one that I'll remove. That one's pretty blurry, so that one, to get rid of this one, I just press the delete button. It doesn't remove the photo from my hard drive, it just removes it from this Meshroom system. Going through the rest, it looks pretty good. I see I've got some establishing shots really far away there. That will help get a better scan. And that's it. I'm quite happy with that. I've got 89 photos there. So I'm going to go through now these are all the different steps that it goes through to get a 3D image that will appear over here in a while. So the only thing I really usually go to is the texture size. It's actually a misspell. It says texture side. Well, actually, I'm going to change that from 8,192 to 496, because that's a 4,096, which is a much more reasonable texture size. The 8K textures are not necessary, and it defaults to them, so I always change them down to 400. Now I go to start, and then it'll ask you need to save the project. I go yes, and I put it in the same folder, and it'll save as a Meshroom graph, an .mg. I'll just save it as mouse, that's fine. And then I press start. Now, this bar has started at the top here. It's already done the camera initialization thing very quickly. It said, oh, I recognize all these cameras, that's fine. Now I'm going to start extracting the features. Then it's going to do image matching, feature matching, structure from motion. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to jump ahead now to the bit where it gets to structure from motion, because that's quite interesting, because that's where you actually start realizing how many cameras are aligned, and you start getting some 3D modeling over here. So, okay, I just wanted to then show you the results. Now we got to structure from motion, which means that it has managed to align or try and work out in the 3D space where all these cameras are positioned. You can see that they've all got this little camera picture next to them on the other side from the green traffic light system. Now, one of them didn't, because we've got, it says 89 pictures and 88 cameras. So this one, which actually I think at the time I did say, oh, that was blurry, this one has not managed to align, so it doesn't actually know where that picture is meant to be pointed, but the rest of them it's been able to work out fine. So now we go over to this window, and we can see here the actual beginnings of our 3D model, what it's able to do. And all of these little things flying around here, these are all the cameras themselves. Actually, if I click on the camera, it'll actually change it over to the actual photo that it believes that camera is representing. Okay, which helps you see kind of how it's doing the maths, and you can see that's the route that I took around the object there. But anyway, at this point you can see your alignment. Now sometimes at this point I might cancel the whole build, because if it's only aligned 10 of the photos and there were 100, or if I look at the 3D objects and it looks like it's doubling up for some reason, which I have seen as a problem, then I will have to restart and think again. But at the moment this looks really good, so I'm just going to press start now, and it's going to carry on, and it's going to do these next 5-6 stages. Now bear in mind, this might take a long time, so I'm going to probably go off and have a cup of tea, chill out, do something else, and then I'll come back and record the final moments in a second. Okay, so I've just had a cup of tea, and here we are back in Meshroom, and you can see that the model has got a few extra dots in there, but the main thing So all of this is what we call point cloud data. The main thing is that this button here now has appeared. It says load model. So if I press load model, it's going to actually create a model from those dots, or it already did that during the process, and then it loads it into the space here so that we can see. And you can see there the model has been captured, and a lot of the surrounding ground as well, because it's looking at the entire photo, so it's going to see stuff in the background, and it's going to scan that stuff too. Now when we take it into Blender, which is our next step, we will be cutting a lot of this away. We're cutting almost all of it away, and we're just going to be focusing on the stump with the mouse and build it from there. But you can see there that I'm just going to press this button to get rid of the dots so we can just see the model. If we just look here, you can see this model has come out really quite nicely, reflection of the 3D space, and you can see all of the detail that's on there. It's absolutely incredible, really. It's almost like a little bit of a magic trick. The only problem there is that there you are. You see there's a little bit of weird geometry there around the ears, just there. Well, in Blender, we'll probably be able to tidy that up, and a little bit like Photoshop, we'll be able to just paste over it and copy and make the texture look nice. But I'll show you how to do that. Yeah, and then eventually we'll be able to get this into Tiltbrush. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me on the next video, where we'll be taking this into Blender and making it a simpler asset, and cutting out a lot of the excess, and we'll have to do a little bit of texture mapping to put a new texture on the model so that we can upload it to the internet and it won't take up a huge amount of space. All right, thank you very much.